Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Okay, well, both Cecil and I have had a second to get some water, cool down, because it was a hot, toasty one out there at Broncos Park. But it was even toastier because Courtland Sutton did, in fact, speak to the media. What was interesting, Cecil, and you and I were both expecting for Broncos PR to tell us that Courtland was going to talk. But they had told us it was going to be Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, and Alex Singleton. So we're like, okay, well, I guess Courtland's not going to talk. I'm surprised considering all of the drama. Courtland Sutton ends up talking, and there's a ton we're going to dive into. I watched the interview twice, and I'm like, okay, where are the things that like stand out to me the most? But I'm just curious, do you think Courtland wanted to talk? Or do you think that Broncos PR asked him to? Because Baron Browning still ended up talking as well. So it was 4 guys on day one.
Yeah, I think it's Courtland Sutton saying, when's my turn to talk, right? Get the questions out of the way, the tough questions out of the way, and give us a lot. So thank you, Court, for talking, taking those tougher questions, and giving us some clarity on this situation as much as we can.
For sure. And Denver media definitely asking some of those harder questions. Somebody even asked, there was a rumor that came out from NFL Network, or there was a story that came out from NFL Network saying that Courtland Sutton was staying away because of contract negotiations. And they asked him if he was true. And he starts off with saying, well, I don't know who talked to them. And he didn't answer the question, but he goes on essentially to just say, like, I really want to be here. And I'm like trying to make that point across. But with some of the other things, it's definitely like Courtland wants to be here, but he also wants to get paid, which is something we all kind of knew what was true.
Yeah, and I think it's bad advice from his agent, because I do believe when Courtland says, I want to be here, I believe him, but he hasn't been there. And we can talk about his day, not what he said, what he did, which was drop a lot of passes. Okay. Yeah, we'll get into that. But okay, you want to be a Bronco. I believe you. Why aren't you here? Like, I don't care, a contract is just business. I get that, but he has zero leverage. Courtland Sutton has not done enough to even get a slight bump in pay. If you're there, then maybe they're like, man, Court's always here, and he's a trooper. Like, maybe they pay you just as a favor.
Yeah.
But you have no leverage, and that's why I think it's bad advice from his agent.
I'm totally with you. And yes, they did say that the talks between the two are stalemate, which I thought was interesting. But Cecil, you and I have talked about it a ton. He has no leverage. Like, there's nothing. And the other thing that I thought was so fascinating, and I want to make sure that I get this quote right, it's they asked him about like the future. When you draft a young quarterback at 12, like the future is, him essentially. And the game plan is 3 to 4 years. And he says, I've been told that's what the game plan is, for him to be there for all of these years with Bo Nix if he ends up being the starter. And then he goes and pauses for a second. He goes, I've also been told other things. So it's like, well, who's talking to you and who's saying what? But essentially, he probably feels so up in the air of like, I don't know if I'm the future or if I'm just the right now with this 1 year left on my contract.
Yeah, what is the future of the Denver Broncos wide receiver? And, I look at the zero leverage that he has when guys around him like Jacoby Myers and Gabe Davis and Josh Downs, they're all in that 700 range. And, well, they didn't play as many games as Court did last season. So Tank Dell also in that range as well, but he played 11 games last year compared to the 15 that Court played. So it's like, all right, the future, I've been told other things, but the other things he's not here, because I think it's ridiculous for anyone, including James, to suggest they're going to take a quarterback next year. They're not, unless it's a 7th rounder. There's no way Bo Nix looks that bad. There's no way they Josh Rosen him. That is impossible. So Sutton's heard other things. Yeah, those other things are he's traded and he plays for Lamar Jackson.
If I'm Courtland Sutton, am I mad about that though?
In that offense, I mean, a Sean Payton offense can make you some money. Wide receivers are getting paid.
Yeah.
They're getting paid. You go to Baltimore, Lamar's going to run a lot. It's going to be kind of the Russ thing all over again, where you don't get the robust passing game.
Do you care more about playing the actual game or the possibility of winning a Super Bowl?
Do I or do Courtland Sutton?
I guess both. I'm curious to hear your answer, because there's one I care about more probably.
Well, it's all about the ring. The ring is the thing, but with Sutton, like, it's already proven. Like, it's proven you're well paid. the contract that Sutton has is more than fair. I'm not saying that he underperformed it. He certainly hasn't overperformed those numbers.
No.
But when I bring up the players around him, it's like, it's not great, Bob. Like, you're not producing at this high level. I saw your thumbnail the other day and watching Coffee Break. It's like no 1,000-yard seasons, right? So what do you want? Like, why are you doing this? Oh, yeah, bad advice from your agent. So, again, with Courtland Sutton, go out there and perform. Put up a 1,200-yard season. I'm not even going to get crazy, just put up a 1,200-yard season with those 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns don't mean anything. Russ is gone.
Yep.
You're not going to do that again. So, like, how does he make it happen when guys that are right around him in that, kind of category, if you will, making like $4 or $5 million a year?
See, okay, what's crazy to me is my biggest thing. I'm like, Courtland Sutton, read the room. The Broncos are having to pay your friend Russell Wilson so much money. So, like, is now the time to go and ask? It's like if your company comes back and they're in the negatives and you're like, hey, boss, I still want to raise. Like, can we make that happen? Like, I get it. It's a business. But you also have to read the room of, like, yeah, your buddy, they just kicked him out and said, no, we don't have the money. So go out there, perform this year, and prove why you should get paid. I'm still on the stance of, like, don't get me wrong. I like Courtland Sutton. I appreciate him getting up and talking. But no, they should not pay him. Conversations should remain how they are if they're not going to have any talks. And Courtland Sutton might just have to agree to that. But also the fact that he's saying, like, he's not sure about if he'll come out to training camp if no talks happen. That doesn't give you a good look with your bosses either, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, well, what is it? I totally want to be here. I might not be at training camp. What?
Yeah.
Wait a second. What? And then I thought about not coming to mandatory mini camp. What? You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Right. And that's why I think it's the agent, because Court in his heart wants to be here, probably knows where he's at. But his agent, who I don't know his agent, and not that if I know you, then you're great. And if I don't know you, then whatever. But it's like, all right, I know his reputation. It's not great, Bob. Second time I've said that in the show. But like, you have an agent that is known to be difficult and you're listening to him. There's plenty of good agents out there.
Who else does his agent represent? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Interesting. I'm like very curious on that kind of front. I might have to do some digging on that afterwards. But yeah, I feel like he is getting bad advice. So you can tell, I think he got up there because he wanted his turn to talk, like you also said. Like, I've heard all of the rumors. I've heard everybody talking about me and thinking it wasn't me who wanted to come out to OTAs. Fascinating that he also mentioned that the Broncos are the ones. We all thought he was just working out down in Florida because he likes the humidity. I don't know what the reason was. But he actually said that the Broncos training staff sent him down there because he got his ankle surgery done. And he said that him and Coach Payton had talked, and it was best for him to stay down there. I mean, that changed the narrative a lot, Cecil, between, you don't want to be with your teammates, so you're going to stay down in Florida and hang out and do whatever you're going to do in the humidity, like I said, to the Broncos sent me to Florida to get surgery, and Sean Payton and I discussed me staying down there instead of coming back. Like, those are two completely different narratives.
Yeah, completely different narratives. Again, mixed signals. Yeah. Isn't everything like mixed signals with this guy? And it's like, Court, we know you can ball. We know you can play. Like, why doesn't that happen, right? And why don't we see it?
How much blame are you putting on the quarterback?
On the quarterback? Meaning what? Sorry.
Why Courtland Sutton hasn't been able to produce the numbers that he should be capable of producing?
No, it's him. It's him.
So no blame on Justin
Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, what was it? Jaron Hall, Nick Mullins, right? Off the top of my head. Or was the Pasternaut was there, the egghead quarterback, right?
Yes.
So it's like, did Justin Jefferson fall off a cliff, right?
True.
Or no, and there's several other examples I could cite, but it's like, I think to blame the quarterback is weak sauce. And I don't believe in that, especially in this game where they could use you. They could have used Jerry Jeudy wasn't coming through. Why weren't you coming through? Oh, it's the quarterback. Well, you look pretty good with Russ. Yeah. Why couldn't you come through? Why couldn't you get open faster? Couldn't you get more targets? Like at the end of the day, and this is more of a life statement than it is a football statement, but we're all the drivers of our car, right? This is I'm driving this thing. I can say my boss or my dad or whatever, or I can say, that's me. Courtland Sutton needs to say me and get out there and perform better than he performed today.
Okay, so let's talk about today, because I was so frustrated, Cecil, where we know Courtland obviously had the surgery, but we hear he's working out. So in my head, I'm like, you're working out and down in Miami. Things must be totally good. Again, I'm thinking he's working out, not doing rehab. And those are two completely separate things, right? Where you're working out with your trainer, whatever, compared to doing rehab, whatever. Totally different situation. So first things first, Courtland Sutton dropped pass right off the bat, does some push-ups and is like, okay, catches his second one. And then I don't see Courtland for probably 15 minutes, Cecil. And I'm like, where did he go? At first, I was like, maybe he just ran to the bathroom, and I was really confused. Ends up, he goes to the side fields and goes inside of the field house. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, was this always part of the plan? Or is this you, hey, I'm showing up for mini camp, that way I don't get fined, and then I'm just going to go in the side field and do whatever? I'm really curious your thoughts on it.
Well, then he went to the side field and dropped more passes. So, and I was watching Court because we get to a certain point. I'm going to stop talking about Zach Wilson because there's nothing good I'm going to say. So
Makes me lose my mind as to why we're still having a 3 quarterback conversation all through training camp, Sean Payton.
Yes, and there's no deadline except the week before week 1. There's a deadline, Sean. The faster you get there, the better. So, when Zach Wilson's out there, I'm like, what's Court doing? Because that's much more interesting and relevant to our conversations. And he's still dropping passes, and he's slapping his hand, and he's mad, and maybe looks a little stiff out there or something, like doesn't look like the normal Court. Yeah, right. You showed up in May, you would have been. Yeah. So again, and I'll be on the naughty list. I said this on Denver Sports Tonight on Monday. I will be on his agent's naughty list. We know his agent has a nice list, and he has a naughty list, which is fine. Most agents do. But all I do is seek the truth and speak the truth. And I believe, could be totally wrong, but I believe his agent has given him bad advice, and he should have been there, and we would have seen a better Courtland Sutton. The Broncos are better with Courtland Sutton. I want to reemphasize that. Totally. The Broncos are better with Courtland Sutton. I just hope cooler heads prevail.
Yeah, I don't think any deal is going to get done, which I don't know. I guess.
So what does that mean? So fast forward it, right? Because I don't think any deal is going to get done. So guess what's going to happen?
He better have a damn good season and prove it. Otherwise, it's like, buy Courtland Sutton, or we're trading you Courtland Sutton, like good luck type of thing. I just, in my gut, Cecil, it just tells me that nothing's going to get done. Well, and I think Courtland wants to explain that frustration right now because the talks have quieted. So he's like, okay, I can get a microphone right here in front of all these people. But it just, the Broncos have no reason to do it. There's zero reasons to extend him and give him the guaranteed money. Zip zero.
Yep. Could get real ugly real fast. That's how this could. I really want to be here. Well, then why are you doing these things that says you don't? Yeah. Knowing full well that Jaden Reed put up more yards than you, right? That Gabe Davis's cap number, I had to look it up. His average annual salary on his new deal with the Jaguars, because he just got paid, right? Yeah. He leaves Buffalo. He just got paid by the Jaguars. His average annual salary is $13 million this year, and he won't see that money. But this year, he's making like $5 million. Yeah. Court, you want that? You're producing? Like, again, if there was math, like I had a 1,200-yard season. I had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. You guys need to, like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, he's here. Yeah. None of this makes sense. None of it whatsoever. So I really want to be here. I'm not going to go to training camp. What? That means you don't want to be here. And
you know what's fascinating? I even mentioned this to you today, Cecil. Greg Penner stood out there for the entire practice. He wasn't up in his suite in the air conditioning, and it was hot today. It really, really was. He stood out there the entire time, no shade, anything. Like, that shows dedication from an owner that I haven't seen in some time. Like, obviously, I missed the main Pat Bullen era, so I can't comment on if he was out there every single time. But the times I was, you would see him up in the box. He would come down for a little bit. I am super impressed with the fact that Greg Penner is down there literally the entire practice.
Yep. Learning, listening, observing, not, telling jokes on the sidelines. Nothing like, he's not clowning around. He's there for business. and he's there to learn. And you love seeing that from Greg Penner. So like, all right, well, there's a tough business lesson for Courtland Sutton that he will learn, because the Broncos can just not trade him, not pay him, and just say, okay, we're not playing you,
Do you think Courtland Sutton's a big enough person that if it doesn't happen, he still gives his A game in a way, right? Like, let's be honest. There's been times where we've all probably heard situations where it didn't go the way we wanted to. And we were like, well, I'm done for the day. You know what I mean? You can't really do that in the NFL, because if you want to continue playing, you have to put up those numbers. But I'm curious if you think that Courtland Sutton is mentally strong enough to see something on the other side if it's not here with Denver.
I will reiterate, I believe in Court. I don't believe in his agent.
Okay.
Again, like, he's got a reputation, What's
his agent's name? I want to look up who else he's doing.
And there's, by the way, it's Jacob Presser. By the way, there's an agent directory that you can look up. So,
oh, incredible. Yeah. Let's just, Cecil, who else did you pay attention to today out there at Broncos minicamp day 1? Because Jarrett Stidham was rolling with the ones.
Yeah, which we should have expected and anticipated. Now, does the rotation continue? Because we're going to be out there on Wednesday. So is that Zach Wilson's day? It shouldn't be. Again, Zach Wilson is so bad. I am not really going to say much about him because it's been awful. And I understand Jeremy Fowler had the report like, Wilson's in the mix. That's agent information. And Jeremy's really good at his job. But when guys hear stuff from agents that aren't here, again, we haven't seen Jeremy Fowler. Nicest guy ever. But it's like, okay, that's an agent telling you he's in the mix. He's not in the mix. All right. He's not in the mix. So like tomorrow, or today, I guess I should say, are we going to see somebody else? Is it Bo Nix's turn? What about Thursday? It's going to be a half day or maybe even canceled. That means Bo Nix loses out on those reps. I don't know.